Welcome to the Diet Fiction Podcast, the show that tells you the truth about diet, nutrition, and health to educate, motivate, and inspire you to live a healthier, more fulfilling life. And here is your host, Michał Sawierski.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Diet Fiction Podcast. I'm your host, Michał Sawierski. I'm a documentary filmmaker, author, and wellness advocate. And in this show, we expose several misconceptions and myths about diet, health, and nutrition. Join me every week as I interview some of the most forward-thinking and disruptive health experts on the planet to help educate, motivate, and inspire you to live a healthier and more fulfilling life. Hey everyone, welcome to the Diet Fiction Podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. I am your host Michał Sawierski and I'm really excited that you're joining us on this new episode. It has been a couple weeks since I posted the last one. I have to apologize, I've been fighting a cold and my voice was really not up for recordings. I hope your day is going extremely well, and if it's not, I am glad you tuned in because this episode is packed with positive vibrations. Guys, today we will be talking to a good friend of mine. His name is Adam Sud, and he has an incredible, inspiring story of overcoming many challenges in life, from losing over 100 pounds, reversing heart disease and type 2 diabetes, tackling anxiety and depression, overcoming drug addiction, surviving a suicide attempt, and getting his life back on track. I mean, this guy went through so much, and he set such a great example on how it is possible to overcome many adversities in life and be able to thrive again. Adam currently is a health coach at masteringdiabetes.com. He is an internationally renowned speaker and influencer. He also works closely with Rip Esselstyn at the Engine 2 program and with Whole Foods Market, of which his father is one of their co-founders. Adam is also featured in our documentary Diet Fiction along with his twin brother Robert, who also shares an amazing journey, but we'll cover that in another episode. As you might imagine, I heard Adam's story many times before, but every time I hear it, it gives me the chills, guys, and then it empowers me with motivation and excitement about life and facing any difficulties I might be facing at the moment. It's really super inspiring. But before we get started, just a few really quick updates for those of you that haven't heard about it. I recently launched a companion book for our film. It is also called Diet Fiction and it's available on Amazon. I co-wrote this book with Dr. Pam Popper, who is a world-renowned PhD and expert in health and nutrition. And if you enjoyed the Diet Fiction documentary, then you might also really like this book because it gets into a lot more details on the topics covered in the film. So just a quick update about Diet Fiction, the film. I just wanted to say thank you for all the amazing support. It's been 3 months since we launched the film on January 1st, 2019, and we are still on the top 3 most sold documentaries on iTunes in the USA and Canada. If you haven't seen it yet, you can watch it on iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo, Google Play, Vudu, and dozens of other digital platforms. We're adding new platforms all the time, and we also have Blu-rays and DVDs for sale on Amazon. So if you watch it, please let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. You can join our community on Facebook at facebook.com/dietfictionmovie or find us on Instagram at dietfiction. And guys, if you haven't watched my previous movie, Food Choices, that is the precursor to Diet Fiction, it is available for free on Amazon Prime for anyone that has a subscription. So check it out. But getting back to the podcast, guys, I'm super excited to welcome my friend Adam Sud. I hope you find his story as inspiring as I do, and I hope you really enjoy it. So let's get started. Hey Adam, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's always great to talk to you. I always enjoy our conversations, and I love what you do.
Thanks, Adam. And I'm really excited to bring you here to the podcast because you have such an amazing story of overcoming adversity, massive weight loss and improving your health and struggling with addiction and overcoming it. It's just such an inspiring story, and we interviewed you for Diet Fiction, but because that was such a film so focused on diet, we really couldn't feature your entire story, and I really like to cover more of your story that is so inspiring and so fascinating. So, tell us a little bit for our listeners that don't know you, who you are, what you do, and just a little introduction, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, my name is Adam Sud, and I do several things. I work with a group called Mastering Diabetes, and I'm a food addiction and diabetes coach. And what we do is we help empower individuals to reverse insulin resistance, which is the causation of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes, and also impairs the quality of life of those living with insulin-dependent diabetes, so type 1, type 1.5. We help them reverse the insulin resistance through the use of low-fat, whole-food, plant-based nutrition, so that those who are living with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes can completely reverse those conditions, and those who are living with insulin-dependent diabetes, like type 1 or type 1.5, can make themselves insulin sensitive so that they are using the same amount of insulin that their body would naturally produce if their pancreas were capable of doing so, while also creating a optimal health outcome. And so we do online coaching. We have a retreat coming up. And then I also work with Whole Foods Market as part of their Total Health Immersions team, where we help empower our team members to take charge and own their health and well-being through the use of low-fat, plant-based nutrition by sending our employees to one of 4 immersion programs that are led by Rip Esselstyn from Engine 2. There's a McDougall program, so John McDougall, Dr. Joel Furman program, and then a Dr. Scott Stoll program. So for a 1-week retreat that we do, each one of them leads a 1-week retreat, and we send about 70 employees to each of those and empower them to learn how to take charge of their life. And it's a really amazing program. We've been doing it at Whole Foods since 2009. We've sent about 4,000 to 5,000 employees over the course of those 9 years. And we've invested about $16 million in empowering the team members of Whole Foods into really owning their own healthcare instead of depending upon the healthcare system, which, as you know, just treats sick care. So,
That's
and then
awesome.
on top of that, I work with Rip Esselstyn, and I'm a part of the event staff, and I'm a speaker for all of his Plant Strong events.
That's amazing, man. Seems like you have a lot going on. And going back to Whole Foods, so what you were talking about, all these courses and these immersion programs, all of that is covered by the company, by Whole Foods for the employees?
Yes, 100%. They don't. The employees don't pay a dime. So the program fees and travel costs are completely paid for by the company.
That's amazing. And I remember when I spoke with John Mackey, he the CEO of Whole Foods, and that I met thanks to you, actually. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah. He talked about how, this was actually saving him money, because a lot of people have this idea that, if I take care of my employees, I send them to immersions or courses or do more preventive medicine, it's going to cost me a lot of money. But according to him, it actually costs him less because people don't get sick as often.
Well, think about this, right? So if we were to invest, it's about $4,000 to invest to send one person to an immersion program, right? So $4,000 is the cost it takes to send a person to immersion. Imagine this person is type 2 diabetic. I was type 2 diabetic when I attended. The average healthcare cost per year of a type 2 diabetic is $20,000. So you invest $4,000 in a person's ability to reverse that, and you just saved yourself $15,000 over the course of a year. So absolutely, it saves money. But not only that, you are investing in the well-being of a person who they now show up for work with a positive mindset. It changes everything about the way that they move through the world. When someone is healthy, they're more productive. When someone is healthy, that quality impacts those around them. So it really, and not only that, we are helping people reverse disease through a plant-based diet, which positively impacts the health of the planet. So it really is a win-win-win strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And I hope more companies adopt this kind of approach with healthcare and preventive healthcare in the future. Yeah. But going back to your journey, so right now, I mean, you're a healthy guy. You're slim. You work out. You know, you live a whole food plant-based lifestyle. But it wasn't always like that, right? Can you take us? Right. Can you rewind, a few years and kind of take us through your journey? Where were you? What was it? 5-6 years ago?
Yeah. So it was. So I'll go back to, I struggled with stimulant addiction in high school. I was becoming addicted to Adderall because I had a lot of self-image issues. I didn't think that I was the person that I needed to be or the person that everyone else wanted me to be, and Adderall seemed to fix that for me really easily. I was able to lose the little bit of extra weight that I had in high school because Adderall is a stimulant. So it is a medically pure form of amphetamine, which means that it took my appetite away. It gave me a lot of energy. So I was always the life of the party. It was easy for me to make friends. I felt really confident when I was on it. I didn't really have very good study habits, and this caused a lot of friction between myself and my father. And I found that to be something that I could solve with Adderall, because when I was on a lot of Adderall, man, I could study really, really easily. It was not a problem. And so it sort of, to me, it seemed like a magic pill. It really did. It seemed like all I had to do was take Adderall, and if I took more Adderall, it made me more of the person that everyone else wanted me to be. And it worked. I had a lot of friends. I lost weight. I had girlfriends. My dad and I's relationship when I was in high school was amazing. And I got a scholarship to the college that I wanted to go to. So, it all worked. It was all a result of this beautiful magic pill that was, seeming to make everything in my life the way it was supposed to be. And then, unfortunately, that really took a turn in college because I developed a tolerance to it really quickly. It seemed to happen almost overnight to where it was never enough. Mm-hmm. And I was having this question. I was having to worry about how much do I have? How long will that last? Where will I get more? How much is that going to cost? That was really this constant equation that I was trying to solve on a daily basis that was really overwhelming. And I ended up dropping out of college and started to live a very isolated and destructive lifestyle where I was doing a lot of criminal activity, where I was buying and dealing drugs, and I was stealing from people, and I was, treating people, my family specifically, treating them really poorly. And I developed a secondary dependency to fast food where I would get up every single day and I would eat about 3 or 4 breakfast tacos for breakfast, and then I'd go to McDonald's and get 2 supersized double quarter pounder meals, followed by an extra large honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich meal from a place called Whataburger. Then for dinner, I'd eat an extra large pizza from Papa John's with a side of chicken strips. Then at about 3 in the morning, I'd go back to Whataburger for 3 of their breakfast on a bun sandwiches with sausage, and I'd drink 15 sodas throughout the course of the day. And I would live like a hoarder and just completely isolate. And my drug use got so out of control that for the last 5 years of my struggle with substance abuse, the average prescription dosage is a range somewhere between 5 milligrams and 30 milligrams a day. That's the typical prescription that you'll see a doctor write to somebody for Adderall. I was doing 450 milligrams in a 24-hour period. And I would do it for 6 days straight without sleep. So during the course of one day, I would take about 120 milligrams of Adderall at a time, multiple times throughout 24 hours. I would end up in a drug-induced psychosis. I would be hallucinating. I wouldn't know it would be hard for me to discern when I was asleep and when I was awake. And I would end up having to pop painkillers in order to bring myself down so that I could finally let myself fall asleep. Because by day 6, you're just getting yourself back to not even normal. Like, not even, it's really hard for me to describe what it's like to be on that much drugs for 6 days straight without sleeping, and then trying to fight yourself to recognize that the drugs are really just keeping you in a state of paranoia and psychosis, and that if you don't let yourself sleep, you're going to lose it. And really just ended up popping painkillers, like I said, to just knock myself out so that I could go to sleep, because I just never wanted to be off of the drug.
And how much weight did you gain during that process with the fast food addiction?
My weight reached somewhere between 320 and 350 pounds. And it was bad. I was living like a hoarder, so I wasn't showering or brushing my teeth for like months at a time. And because of the weight, I would get all these rashes, under the folds of my skin, and these sores would develop like, under my arms and under my waist. In my stomach, there was a big fold over my pants. And so under that skin, there would get all these sores, and it was painful. And I would literally stare at myself in the mirror and hate myself. I would literally stand in front of the mirror, take off my shirt, and ritualistically punch myself in the stomach as hard as I could. And it was about this time when my dad came to me and offered me the opportunity to attend an event hosted by Rip Esselstyn, who is the founder of the Engine 2 Diet, who wrote the Engine 2 Diet book. And it was, it's one of these plant-based retreats. And I had no interest in listening to what Rip or any of his colleagues had to say. I didn't care about them. I didn't care what they had to say. I was not interested in a plant-based diet. I was interested in my dad believing that I was doing enough so that I could keep asking him for money. That was why I said yes. And I went to this Engine 2 retreat, and I was high every single day. And in fact, I was apparently, because when I weighed over 300 pounds, so I was sweating a lot because I was not only obese, but on a lot of drugs. And I was putting only toxic substances, food and drugs, into my body. So I smelled toxic all the time. And apparently I was so disruptive just by my appearance and like being around me that there were so many complaints that there was they were considering having me removed from the program. Wow. But thankfully, for whatever reason, I've become close with Rip since then, and I know that Rip really he wants to see the good in everybody, and I believe that is why I wasn't asked to leave, because the Engine 2 team really wants to see this knowledge and these tools be given to those who need it the most. And I wish I could say that I attended this immersion. I listened to all these incredible lecturers like Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Clapper, Doug Lyle, all these people. And then the next day, boom, all was well, right? I wish I could say that I was this like overnight thing, but it wasn't. I continued to struggle for about a year and a half, because even though I knew, it's not like by 5 o'clock I forgot with drug addiction and was obese. Like, being alive hurt. And the drugs was the only thing that made that pain tolerable. And on August 21st of 2012, it just got to be too much. And I attempted suicide by drug overdose. I remember very clearly sitting on my couch, surrounded by all this fast food garbage that was just all over the floor, and saying to myself, you know what? This is never going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. And you're going to drag down your parents. You're going to drag down your twin brother and your little sister, who my sister wasn't talking to me. She hadn't talked to me in over a year. You might as well just spare everybody else the misery that you're causing. And I just grabbed a handful of pills. There was a combination of uppers and downers, and I just swallowed a handful of them And the next thing I know, I was face down on the floor in a puddle of vomit in a pile of garbage. And I had literally just about died from a life of self-hatred, self-abuse, and denial. And I had a very clear understanding after surviving that, which was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. Because there's an immediacy in my experience for what happened to me. There was an immediacy of regret. Like, I instantly wish I hadn't tried that. But, you know, I started panicking. I started to cramp up all over the place, and I recognized that I was not going to be conscious for very much longer. And it was so, it's indescribable, the experience of believing that once everything goes black, it's never going to come back again. And seeing everybody and recognizing it was the biggest mistake I'd ever made. Like, seeing everybody that I cared about and wanting so badly to take back what I had just done. And that experience made me realize that if I had been successful, that sure, I would have been gone. My pain would have been over, so to speak. But my family and everyone that I cared about would spend the rest of their lives asking themselves why I needed to eat and drug myself to death, and would be in absolute misery, believing that there was something that they could have or should have done or said to get me to change the way that I was living. And I'm so thankful that my attempt failed, and that I was able to pick up the phone, call my parents, and once they answered the phone, just say 3 words: I need help. And I'll be honest, that day, that call for help was less about me in that moment and more about not wanting them to have to experience losing their son. And I thought maybe if I could motivate myself to just ask for help for them, maybe in the course of getting help, I'll realize that there is something about me that's worth fighting for. And about 2 weeks later, I checked into rehab, and within 72 hours, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, erectile dysfunction, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, suicidal depression, sleep disorder, and attention deficit disorder.
Wow.
And I was put on a cabinet's worth of medication. And I literally had never been so, like, I thought I knew what my road looked like, my path to recovery looked like. And that whole, understanding had just been completely shattered, right? I thought, all right, all I have to do is stop using drugs and my life will get better. No, not even close, my friend. It's not even close. These doctors were so concerned about my chronic health situation that they didn't even talk to me about the drug use. They were so afraid I was going to have a heart attack within the first week of rehab. Wow. And my blood pressure and heart rate was monitored every single day during the entire 37 days that I was in rehab because they were so concerned. And I remember calling my dad within that first week and saying that I was leaving because I couldn't deal with it. I thought all I had to do was get off drugs, and I find out I have diabetes and heart disease, and I have all these psychological and emotional conditions that I don't even understand, let alone know what to do with. And my dad had a conversation with me that I'll never forget. And essentially what he explained to me was, Adam, if there's something about your life that you don't like and you can change it, then you don't have a problem. And if there's something about your life that you don't like and there's nothing you can do about it, then it's just the way things are. That there really is essentially no such thing as a problem. And I remember in that moment, I realized, okay, I am the cause of everything that I'm dealing with right now. And that's okay, because that means that I get to be the solution. I have to wait for nothing or no one to change to allow me to start making positive changes in my life. And after I moved out of rehab, I moved into a sober living facility where I decided, okay, I'm gonna give this plant-based diet thing a try, because I had learned at the immersion that diabetes and heart disease and obesity, these are reversible, right? These are conditions that are caused by the choices of what I chose to put on my plate. And that if I were to make decisions, if I were to choose to put plants on my plate, if I were to simply choose to put whole food plant-based diet onto my plate, that these could go away. All right, great, easy enough. Okay, sure. I get up in the morning, I go to the cabinet, I open up the cabinet, and there's two options staring me in the face. There's oatmeal and Fruity Pebbles. And I loved Fruity Pebbles. Oh my goodness. And I did like oatmeal then. I didn't dislike it at all. And so here I am, standing in front of two options. And I know 100% the consequences if I choose the Fruity Pebbles. I know the consequences of that choice. I know that it will continue to fuel the diseases that I have, and I will continue to get sick. And even if I get sober, if I eat the Fruity Pebbles, I could still die in 5 years. I also know the benefit of choosing oatmeal, which, remember, I didn't dislike oatmeal, right? I know the benefits of that choice. I know that if I choose oatmeal in that moment, it will begin to reverse the conditions that are threatening my health. It will begin to allow me to start making positive change. So why in the world would I want Fruity Pebbles so badly? Why was this simply not a matter of intellect and will? Why could I not know what to do, want to do it, and that's it, end of story? What is so difficult about making positive lifestyle change that when I know what to do to be happy and healthy, why is it so difficult to do it? And that question got answered really, really well for me when I watched the Pleasure Trap TED Talk by Doug Lisle. So Doug Lisle is an evolutionary psychologist who gave a brilliant TED Talk called The Pleasure Trap, where he explains that there actually is a biological mechanism that compels people to continue to seek out behaviors that create the highest dopamine response because our body believes it's biologically beneficial. So when I would eat Fruity Pebbles and pop 120 milligrams of Adderall, my body would respond by essentially going, bravo. I don't know what that was, but whatever that was, that has to be the best thing that you've ever done for yourself, because never in the course of human evolution have we ever experienced a dopamine response like that. It's got to be the most beneficial thing you've ever done. And because the dopamine response is so far outside the bounds of the normal human experience, it's got to be incredibly rare. So get it while you can. And after understanding this biological mechanism, all this shame was washed away, because I realized that the reason why I was standing there in front of those two options, knowing the results of both of them, and still wanting to choose what I knew was bad for me, wasn't because I was a broken individual. It was because my body was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, given the environment that I had been living in for 10, 15 years. There's nothing wrong with me. And I also took away a very, very powerful message from the Pleasure Trap. Essentially what it told me was that if I could get up and be willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable, eventually the oatmeal would not be a chore. And if I could be comfortable being uncomfortable long enough, eventually I would get up and I would look forward to the oatmeal. And then I wouldn't have to worry about being comfortable with being uncomfortable at all in terms of my food choices. And I had to really determine, I had to really decide, all right, what was I going to be willing to be uncomfortable being uncomfortable for? So a lot of people will say that this is, defining your why. And if anybody were to look at my situation at that time, they would say, oh, it's because he's doing it because he's obese, he's doing it because he has heart disease, he's doing it because he's diabetic, and he's doing it because he has struggles with substance abuse. Not one of those was the reason why I decided to do it. Okay, yeah, I was obese. Great. Of course I don't want to be obese. I had diabetes and heart disease. Yeah, I can tell you 100% I didn't want to be diabetic or have heart disease. And I struggled with such horrible substance abuse issues and denial of self that I tried to end my life. Of course I don't want to die. Why not? What was it about my life that I loved enough that I was willing to do this? Not hated enough. I was done hating myself. I was done hating myself because I know that self-hatred had always driven me towards really destructive behaviors. This was not about hating myself out of a bad situation, but rather I wanted to love myself into a positive situation. And that's the way that I structured my focus and my thoughts that at that time was focus on what it was about my life that I loved enough to be willing to go through this in order to experience it more completely and more authentically. And for me, that was to return to the most authentic version of myself, so that when I was with people that I loved and cared about, I could simply just be with them for them. Because once my substance abuse issues started, I stopped being with people and I started using them. So it had been such a long time since I've been able to be with people and that be enough. And I really wanted to know what that experience was like and to return to that authentic version of myself that I hadn't been in probably 20 years at this point. And so when I got up every single day and I prepared a meal on a plate that was about health and wellness, that was about me choosing to be healthier today than I was the day before, I realized that that was an act of self-care. That was an act of self-love. That was me saying to myself that today I choose positivity and positive change. It was an affirmation of sobriety. And within 3 months, I completely reversed my diabetes and heart disease. And I can remember being at the endocrinologist's office, and this is about month 4 at this point when I went to go see my endocrinologist, and we had done some blood tests, and he comes back in and he says to me, Adam, you're no longer diabetic. And I can remember I stood up and I shook his hand and I said, I guess that I no longer need your services. And I walked out feeling self-worth for the first time in a very long time. And I believe that self-worth made me feel like I was worth saving, because I realized that what I had been doing over those past 3 months was getting up and making a decision between what I wanted now and what I wanted most. Even though making that decision for what I wanted most may have been uncomfortable, being willing to go through those uncomfortable moments rather than avoid them through either anger, not anger, but through substance abuse or food that was destructive, I would allow myself to sit in that moment of discomfort, move through it for the sake of gaining self-awareness and a better understanding of how I move through this world with positivity. And that is there's so much self-love and self-care in that act of being willing to say that there is no such thing as a good or bad emotion. Feelings are not good or bad. They just are. And what they really are is your body saying, recognize this moment, for it is significant. It is an opportunity for you to gain a greater self-awareness of how you move through the world, and to not resist or fight those feelings that for me at the time were really uncomfortable, but rather let them happen, allow myself to sit and breathe, be simply place, step, and breath, allow that to happen so that I don't react to it, but rather respond to it in a positive way, really helped me return to that authentic self. And over the course of 10 months, I lost over 100 pounds. And within a year, I was off of every single medication that I was prescribed to in rehab, including the antidepressants, the mood stabilizers, the sleeping medications, the anxiety medications, and the ADHD medications. And I gained this incredible understanding. There's a great quote that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act but a habit. If I get up every single day and I eat a plant-based diet, if I get up every single day and I'm committed to the behaviors of recovery, right? That purposeful act of mindfulness, the purposeful act of movement. Like, so for me, running is meditation. If I get up every single day and I'm of service to other people, then at the end of the day, I have lived a life where I was healthy, sober, and of service to other people. And that is the type of life that I want to live. That is that return to authenticity that I was searching for. And there are some people in my life who are very much responsible for helping guide me to this place. And, one of them is definitely Rip Esselstyn, who, never, when I met him, I was in survival mode, okay, where I would put anything, drugs or food, into my body to numb myself up enough so that I could survive the day with as little pain as possible, because being alive hurt. And survival mode is exhausting. It's exhausting physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, in all aspects of life. Survival mode is really, really exhausting. But the tools that he empowered me with allowed me to stop surviving my day and start living my day. And when I'm able to show up and live my day, life has really become a beautiful thing. And the rest, the other people who are very much responsible are my family, my mom and my dad, my brother and my sister, who have really walked this entire path with me and never gave up on me, even when I completely given up on myself. And there was a moment, because my brother, who back in 2016 was 280 pounds or so and was diabetic. And at this point, I had lost nearly 200 pounds. And I asked him to come move in with me and live my life for 6 months. And I said, I know that we'll take care of this diabetes thing, but that's not really what I'm doing this for. I just want you to see what's possible if you just live my life for 6 months. And within 6 weeks, he completely reversed his diabetes. He's lost 100 pounds as of today. But the single greatest moment was when he came to me and he said, there's a quote by Joseph Campbell, that we're not so much looking for the meaning of life as much as we are the experience of being alive. And that's what you've given back to me. And in that moment, I knew 100% that I had honestly returned to my authentic self. Because what he had shared with me was the act that what I had done was I was allowing myself to be there for him 100%, wanting nothing from him and only offering him myself. And in doing so, he completely changed the way that he moved through the world. And there's nothing that I have done, and I don't know if there will be anything that I'll ever do that will come close to what I felt in that moment. Because my brother is my identical twin, so there's never been one moment in our life where we haven't been connected in some way or another. And to know that I had shared my authentic self with him and allowed him to return to a more authentic version of himself was the greatest moment of my life. My life today it's unimaginable. I have the greatest friends. I get to work with Rip and my dad at Whole Foods Market. I get to work with my friends Robbie and Cyrus and Kylie at Mastering Diabetes. And I get to do amazing things with my friends Tara and Mel and Autumn and all these incredible people. And my life is just so beautiful. I could never have imagined it. But I'll tell you, it was never about focusing on results. It was all about focusing on behavior, right? So think about it like this. If I'm running a race, not only can I not see the finish line when I start, I never have to see it to finish. The only thing I can do is focus on the road in front of me, my pace, my step, and my breath. If I continue to do that, I will reach any finish line that I'm running towards. The same thought, the same modality, the same methodology can be applied to life. So we'll take, for example, adopting a plant-based diet. If I'm focusing solely on reversing the disease and weight loss, then I guarantee you there'll be a day when I don't believe it'll happen fast enough and I will get angry and frustrated and give up because I'm focusing on reversing things about myself that I don't like. But if I focus on the behavior and finding the joy in putting these foods on my plate and moving my body with purpose, if I fall in love with the act of taking charge of my health and well-being, every result will take care of itself. I never have to worry about it. If I fall in love with this lifestyle, I'll live this way for the rest of my life. Just like with running. If I want to run a marathon, I better love running or I'll never train for it.
Right.
So that's really sort of my story. I hope I didn't go too long, but it's really more about, the thing I'll tell people is don't worry about the results. Fall in love with the lifestyle that creates positive change in your life and the results will take care of themselves.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think just, listening to you and to what you went through, I mean, this will be inspiring and helpful to so many people. So I really appreciate you sharing this here on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
I was curious, can you talk a little bit about the role that plant-based, whole food plant-based lifestyle had on your addiction recovery? Are there any parallels as far as that?
I think so. I absolutely think so. I think that there's research out there that says that a plant-based diet has positive impact on mood state and stuff like that. But more so than that, I think that what a plant-based diet did was it allowed me to create an environment for positive change, regardless of my psychological or emotional situation, right? So if I came back from a day of therapy that was really rough, and there were plenty of them, and I was angry at the world, I was angry at myself, no matter what, at the end of the day, I was going to be healthier than I was the day before. And that's a foundation that a strong foundation that I created that allowed me to know that no matter what, every single day, I was going to be better off than I was the day before. And that is such a huge and powerful motivator for me to go just one more day. I didn't have to worry about, just like with what I said about with reversing diabetes, I don't have to worry about being sober for the rest of my life. All I have to do is focus on the behaviors that allow me to accept living without substance. So this isn't about abstinence, right? My recovery system is not about abstinence. I'm not trying to abstain from drug use, right? I'm not avoiding drugs. What I did was I crafted a lifestyle where I accepted these behaviors that bring in positivity that don't have room for substance abuse. Mm-hmm. So the food on my plate is an affirmation of recovery. It's an affirmation that I'm saying that I care about myself and I care about what I put into my body in regards to the outcomes that it has on myself, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. And I move my body in a way that is an affirmation of gratitude. I think of food and movement as the ultimate expressions of acceptance and gratitude, right? So the universe and the world that I live in has created an incredible abundance of wonderful foods that heal my body, and I accept them from the universe. I accept these foods from the world around me, and I put them into myself. And as an expression of gratitude to the universe, I move with purpose to show my appreciation and gratitude for the gift that the universe has given me. There's an amazing thought. If you think about it like this, the universe has been expanding. It's just in a constant state of expansion. So it creates space for things to come in and out of existence, which means it's made space for every one of us, which makes every single one of us significant. There is nothing insignificant about any action or person alive right now because the universe made space for us. The universe also doesn't make mistakes. I heard someone say this, that the universe doesn't make mistakes. And we're not only part of the universe, we're of the universe. So none of us are a mistake. It's not about, for me, it was not about trying to fix what was broken in me. I am not now, nor have I ever been broken. I am the person I have always been. I am only living the most authentic version of that person now. It's a return to that authentic self. And food was the vessel that allowed me to learn that lesson.
So what I'm getting is that, part of the recovery process was not focusing that much on the problem or overcoming the problem, but focusing in finding joy in the opposite actions. So, on the positive actions, whether it was changing your diet or practicing mindfulness, exercise, therapy. So focusing on finding joy in that. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. I honestly believe that self-love and self-care, the joy of self-love and self-care isn't part of my journey, it's the entire journey. And that over the course of time, I connected so much joy and appreciation for those behaviors that it has become the way that I move through the world. So when I get up, like I said before, I don't get up abstaining from drug use. I get up and I accept this incredible way of moving through the world that I've crafted for myself that doesn't have room for drug use or destructive foods, because I literally have changed the way that I move through the world. And now I am 100% in love with these foods, with the movement, with the mindfulness, with all of it, that it is part of who I am. It's part of how I show up for the day. It's part of how I express myself to other people. It's part of how I allow other people to impact me. It's everything. It is the entire journey has been learning self-love and self-care through different modalities: food, movement, mindfulness, all of that.
That's awesome. And what would you say to someone? I mean, you kind of went through your whole journey here, but if you were to summarize this to someone that is listening right now and perhaps is going through a very similar situation like you were a few years ago, or they're extremely overweight, depressed, going through addiction or other problems, they hit rock bottom. What would be your words of advice to them?
Okay. First of all, if there's anyone out there who's listening who is struggling with substance abuse, I always recommend talking to a professional. There are services out there that you can call that will require no commitment financially whatsoever, but just so that you can talk to somebody and start to get an understanding of what might be necessary for you to seek recovery. Because that's the first and foremost. This is, people who are struggling with substance abuse, that's a dangerous situation. But it's also really, really important to understand that the reason why we people in this world struggle with substance abuse and mental health issues is not because there's anything wrong with us. There is nothing wrong with us. The environment in which we live and the behaviors in which we engage in have created an environment that has disconnected us from what is truly meaningful in life. There's an amazing British journalist named Johann Hari, and he did an incredible TED Talk called Everything We Know About Addiction is Wrong. And he wrote a wonderful book called Lost Connections about the true cause of depression, mental illness. And one of the things I really like about Johann Hari says, he talks about humans' innate need to bond. We have an incredible need to bond. We bond with people. We bond with purpose. We bond with the goings-on of the world around us that give us true meaning. These are the things that are truly meaningful in life. And when those bonds are severed, we will bond with anything that gives us pleasure, whether it's food, whether it's sex, whether it's a bag of smack, whatever it is. And the stronger those bonds become, the further disconnected we feel from the ability to ever reconnect from what is truly meaningful in life. And that is what causes mental illness and substance abuse. It's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's because the systems in which we live in today distract us from what is truly meaningful. And when we become distracted enough, the opportunity to bond with things that create dysfunction are really, really easy and really, really available. And so know that there's nothing wrong with you, and that at every single moment you have the opportunity to start to reconnect yourself to what is truly meaningful. Recognize this: the hero in my journey is not the person I am right now. I am right now the result of the hero who I was 6 years ago, who was strong enough to take the first step and also had the courage to take every step there forward. Just like anybody else, we are always at any point in life enough. We are always at any point in life worthy of becoming the authentic versions of ourselves if we choose to be. It's not about needing to fix anything in order to become the person that we need to be. We are that already. It's about returning to that authentic version of ourselves, connecting again to what is truly meaningful in life. And everyone has the ability to do that.
That's incredible. Very, very powerful stuff. Thank you for sharing this. And going back to diet a little bit. I mean, when we talked in the past, you kind of we had a little bit of a similar journey when it comes to trying different diets. I mean, I also was 60 pounds overweight and did all sorts of yo-yo diets in the past. I would go on a low-carb diet, an Atkins or paleo or ketogenic. I would lose weight and then it would come right back. And can you talk a little bit about your journey with trying different weight loss programs and what do you think are the biggest problems in the diet world these days as far as weight loss goes?
Yeah, so in college I did the low carb thing and it worked. I lost weight because that was my goal. I was seeking weight loss. I wasn't seeking health, because I didn't understand the connection between the two. I think that the biggest difference is that I see in regards to like the weight loss industry, and I know you're now well aware of, after your incredible documentary, Diet Fiction, is that the weight loss industry is focused on getting you to lose weight in the hopes that it will bring health. Doesn't matter how you do it. They're going to sell you a program that you connect with in the hopes that you'll lose weight in the hopes of gaining health. With a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet, the difference is that you're not losing weight in the hopes of gaining health. You are losing weight because you're getting healthy. And that is a huge difference. There's a big difference there. I remember in your film, Dean Ornish says that we need to learn to lose weight in ways that don't mortgage our health.
Right.
And that's really what a plant-based diet is about. It's about how can you put into your body foods that create a symphony of health. And as a result of that, your body is either going to lose the weight that it needs to lose or gain the weight that it needs to gain in order to reach optimal health. And in doing so, for me, with a plant-based diet, I was able to connect to more than just the health aspect of it all, but the environmental and the animal rights aspect of it. In the beginning, the first year, it was just about the health. It was just about, I wanted to get healthy. I wanted to see what it would be like to regain that experience of being alive. But in doing so, it transformed the way that I move through the world in all aspects. So, look, I don't judge people for saying, right now I'm doing a low carb thing, I'm losing weight, and I feel great. Good. I'm glad you feel good. I'm glad you're losing weight, and I'm really happy that you're on a journey where you are trying to look at the way that you put look at the foods that you put into your body and how it impacts you. What I would ask an individual to do is to really look at the long-term health outcomes of low-carb diets versus the long-term health outcomes of a plant-based diet, and ask yourself, is it worth it to lose weight knowing that the long-term health outcomes are not good? Or is it really, am I seeking long-term health or am I seeking weight loss? Because the two don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? If you want to just lose weight, I can put you on a diet of bacon only, and if we restrict your calories enough, you'll lose weight. You're going to get really sick as a result of it, and I wouldn't want anyone to do that. But you could also achieve weight loss in a way that also creates optimal health for you, the planet, and for every other living creature on this planet. And that is achieved through a low-fat plant-based diet.
Yeah, that's great. And I love your pragmatic approach to this whole issue, not really judging people that, are on different diets, because that I think tends to have a negative effect, but empowering them with information and where they can, educate themselves more about what they're putting into their bodies, so then they can hopefully make the best decision. Yeah. But Adam, tell us what's next for you. What are you working on right now, and also where can people find you online or schedule you for a talk or a conference?
Sure. So on Instagram, you can find me at plantbased addict. I also have a Facebook page by the same name. I'm working on some really cool projects. I'm not going to go into detail what they're about. We don't want to be public about it yet, but it's really exciting. And when we do, I'll come back on your podcast and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
But like I said, I'm going to be speaking this year at Plantstock. If you go to engine2.com and go to events, you can see the Plantstock event where I'll be speaking in August. If you want to come to Plantstock, it's going to be an incredible weekend event with unbelievable speakers, Doctors Dean and Aisha Sherzai, who wrote the Alzheimer's Solution. We have obviously Rip and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn will be there. John Mackey, Cyrus Kambata will be speaking. Just an unbelievable lineup of speakers. There's a guy named Paul de Gelder who was on Rich Roll this year, who was this Navy salvage diver from Australia who got his arm and leg bit off by a shark, and he's now a vegan shark conservationist. This dude is like the coolest guy on the planet, man. I mean, like, he is such a badass. So I can't wait to meet him. I'll be there. You can come and you can meet me in person, hear me speak, and you can get in touch with me through Facebook or through Instagram.
Fantastic, Adam. Well, thank you so much again for joining me on the podcast today and sharing your really incredible, amazing, and inspiring story. And I think this will, empower a lot of people with great information and hopefully motivate some listeners that might be going through a difficult time. So thanks so much again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Mihao, it's such a pleasure. Anytime for you, man.
Really appreciate it, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.